Final animation. This is kind of scary for me. It's nerve-wracking. Let's grind. I'm really happy with that. Hello and welcome to another NihongoGamer video. As you can see, I've got my iPad Pro 9.7-inch edition out here, and I've got my Apple Pencil, and this is actually the second part of a drawing series, video series that we're doing with Doki Drawing, which is a channel that I frequently appear on. And I thought it would be fun to draw my own live stream notification. When you do live streams, often when someone subscribes or someone donates, they often have these animations show up. They go pring, and it's like, thank you for subscribing. Command grab, target combo Uchi! Thank you so much for spending your Twitch Prime on me. But I've always used the default animations that were built into the software, and I decided to make my own animation drawn by hand with the help of the professional animator at Doki Drawing. It goes frame 1 is the head coming into the shot, then a person showing up with a grinder, then reaching up to the top of the frame, lifting the grinder up, and then coming to rest. And then eventually we'll have some speech here that says, like, let's grind, or something like that. So I haven't really done this before, but I'm using Clip Studio Paint, and there's an animation feature, and I believe that if I use this, I can actually do the animation and the drawing of this completely in Clip Studio Paint. So what I've done is I've actually imported all the necessary pictures that I need. These are the 4 frames. I've got frame 1 coming in, lifting up the grinder, stretching up to the top of the frame, and then coming to rest here. As part 2 of this series, what I'd like to do is try to improve on this animation and then bring it back to the professional animator, Mr. Hinoe, on Doki Drawing. Even though it does look like it's moving, I think what we really needed was for this penultimate frame right here, it needed to stretch a little bit further up and kind of morph in a more cartoony fashion. And also, the other issue was that this frame really just does not look like the rest of the character. If we look at this frame versus this frame, it's like 2 completely different people. Alright, so I'm pretty new to the animation feature in Clip Studio Paint as well, but I'm under the impression that if you click New here, you get these different types of documents, and the final one here is animation. So you can choose the size of the animation. I'm just going to make it full HD. I'm also going to change the frame rate to 8 frames per second. I'm going to have a playback time of about 4 frames, but I don't actually know how long this needs to be, so maybe just in case, I'll put it up to maybe 10 frames, just for safety's sake. There's also a setting down here for the amount of blank space you have going around the animation, but I'll just leave that on default, and you should come up with a new document like this. Now I'm going to make sure that my animation timeline is actually showing up here. Going to put this at the bottom of the screen. And normally if you want to just make a simple animation, you would just go here and you would click a new frame. 1, 2, 3. Let's say I have a ball here, on the second frame a ball there. You can see it's actually just sifting through the 4 frames here, 1, 2, 3, 4. But instead of these 4 layers, what I actually want is to go back to when I only had 1 layer, like so. And I'm going to create a folder, because if you have a folder, then you can use layers instead of a single image. So here I've got layer number 1. I'm going to go to the settings for that. I'm going to create a folder and insert layer here. And I've got my new layer now. So now when I click new frame, instead of giving me new frames, I'll get new frame folders. So 1, 2, 3. So now I have 4 folders in here, and I'm going to put those photos in here. So now, when I go through the animation, I can actually see entire folders being selected. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I just press play, you can see the animation plays for me. Alright, now that I've resized the animation, what I really want to do is I want to fix the most annoying part for me, which is the stretching up to the top part. So it's frame number 3. It really doesn't look very different to frame number 4, but what it really should look like, and if I can just sketch over the top of here, what I really want it to look like is to have a much more stretched out face like so. And maybe it's not necessary to stretch it out so much, but since it's such a short 4-frame animation, having the animation kind of stretch out like this helps me I think it helps me get away with having so few frames. The idea for this is to do my best with the corrections on this and then bring it back to Doki Drawing and get the opinion of the professional Japanese animator. Now because it's red, it's a little bit difficult to understand, so what I'm going to do is just over the top of here on the frame 4, I'm going to sketch over the top of this one as well. Let's just click playback, shall we? Okay, I can kind of see that. I'm going to jump straight into frame 3 and we're going to draw this a little more solidly. So I'm going to draw frame number 3 right now, but when I did this originally with Doki Doki Drawer, I was able to see, using the light table, frame number 4 beneath, so I could see where I was going to. So I could actually, I have more control. I could use this. This is the onion skin tool, which just chooses the previous frame and the next frame. But you actually have more control over the light table if you choose the frame that you're drawing on, and then you put a check mark on the frame that you want to be able to see. Then you go to Animation, Light Table, and here we go, Register Selected Layer. And that will let you see that layer without causing any changes to the real layer. Right now, if I click on the Light Table feature, I can actually move this around. So for example, this image here, number 4, if I actually want this in a different place, like I'm matching it up, like I just want the shape of the glasses to be exactly the same, I can actually move layer number 4 to exactly the right position, trace the parts that I want, and then go back around and trace other things. So I'm just going to put that layer back where it was, and let's go ahead and draw into layer 3. So I think trajectory rise, I'm going from like down here to somewhere in the middle to something like this. I'm going to stretch the head out a bit longer. So essentially I want the glasses to kind of fly off my face, a little bit like the grinder flies out of my hand in this one, the original frame 3. The reason I'm tracing the grinder kind of as it is because the grinder can't really change shape. It's not part of the stretchy parts of this animation. I feel like the body can stretch, but the grinder doesn't need to stretch. And then let's have the body stretch out. Alright, let's open up the light table and let's reset this guy's position here. In fact, we can actually release the light table now, so just delete that. And let's check this animation. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Hang on a minute. Surround here from the original photo is confusing me. And let's go through now and see if it's any easier to understand. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right now, I feel like the biggest issue is that even though the head is getting a little slimmer, it's kind of getting smaller. Alright, it's moving too quickly, so I'm gonna go to Animation, Timeline, Change, Frame Rate, and let's change it to something even smaller. How about, let's just do it half speed, 4 frames per second. Okay, I can kind of see it now. The problem is, the body isn't stretching out, it's actually getting bigger. I'm gonna edit these hairs so that they kind of flick forward a bit more. No, I think it works. Hand position needs to look like it's coming from behind a bit more. It's kind of explosive. He's kind of exploding out a bit too much. It's maybe a little bit too different. Now that this is more or less in place, let's see if we can replace this one as well, because this just does not look like any of the other frames. We're going to use the onion skin so we can kind of see where we're going. How about that? That looks a little bit more like the pose that you might expect. Alright, this is what I'm gonna go with, so let's finish up this line art and let's see if we can make it look a little more pretty. So let's see if it looks any better now. Oh my goodness, it still looks absolutely nothing like frame number 4. You know, I think the glasses lifting off the eyes is a little bit too obvious, so I'm going to edit that. Unfortunately, I really don't think that's working out. Okay, at least it looks a little bit more like the same person now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it looks a little bit better now, I think. But it's okay to have a neck, but the neck just kind of appears out of nowhere. So let's just try it more like this, shall we? The hair is definitely a little bit dramatic, but the body shape seems to change a bit too much. Awesome! It's looking much better now. Now I think it's time to finish off frame number 2. Make it a bit thinner, and then we'll draw over the top of it. You know, I have a bad feeling that this looks exactly like the previous one. Still, it looks closer than this one does. Alright, let's see how the animation looks like now. Doesn't look quite right. It looks better than before, doesn't it? If anything, frame number 2 looks more natural. I think the head may be a little bit too small. Let's see if I can make that a little bit bigger. What if I make this a little bit smaller? Is there a little bit more continuity that way? Oh, you know what? That looks way better. See, what I wanted was for him to stretch out like this in a curve and then come back to his normal shape. But I think it may be a little bit too drastic. If anything that I'm kind of a little concerned about, it's the glasses. They look like a different shape. Alright, I'm happy with that. I'm going to finish off the line work and then I'll see you on the flip side. Alright, so that is... Oh, well, I forgot the nose. Alright, so let's see the final animation. This is kind of scary for me. It's nerve-wracking. Let's see how it looks. 1, 2, 3. Hey, you know what? After putting the final line work in and redoing the line work for frame number 4, I think it actually works kind of well. Definitely the hair is a little bit dramatic. In the original frame 3 that I drew, it more or less looked exactly like frame number 4. So this is frame 3 and this is frame number 4 of the old version, but in the new version, frame 3 looks more stretchy and cartoony. So the animation will start like so, and then I'm gonna have some flashing words here that say, "Let's grind." Alright, I don't know if this is the correct way to do it. What I'm going to do is put an empty frame in here and then go to the next frame, and I'm going to use this interlock feature and bring back frame number 1. And then here I'm going to interlock and bring back frame 1A. I'm just going to alternate. I don't really know if this is the correct way to do it, but for now it seems to be working. Now let's see if that works when we play back. Ready, go. That is exactly what I wanted. Alright, hold on a second. Let's grind. I'm really happy with that. Now, just to show you the original animation, and there is a video on Doki Drawing that shows exactly how this came to fruition, and that's basically where I learned what to do for this slightly improved version that we're working with here on the iPad. But essentially I had the head a little bit too large here, and then I drew this character that doesn't look like the rest of the characters. Then instead of stretching to the top of the frame, it basically looks like a trace of frame 4. But now that we've had a chance to edit frame 3 so that it looks a little more stretched out, and to edit frame 2 so it looks a little bit more like the same character, then I think you can agree, or I hope you'll agree, when we play it back, this looks a bit more like a stream animation. So I'm really happy with this, but I think there's going to be a lot more that can still be fixed. And for part 3, do check out Doki Drawing, because I'll be meeting back up with the Japanese professional animator and asking for advice on how this can continue to be improved, because I'm convinced that there's more that can be done here, and who knows, maybe if the current frames are actually fine the way they are, maybe we can ask the professional animator how to make this a smoother animation. Anyway, that's all for now. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, share the links and all that great stuff, and I'll see you in the next NihongoGamer video. And remember, check out part 1, it's on Doki Drawing, and part 3, when it's done, will also be on Doki Drawing, so definitely check the links below for that. And until then, let's grind.